What is going on, Governor? It's Chisgule here, and we're back with more Crazy War. And in this series, we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of events that happened, and they're kind of interesting to watch. I'll comment on it a little bit. I want to talk about something else, which is that you can see at this point in day 3 of the war, my power has shot up a whole heck of a lot. How did I gain 6 million power over the course of 24 hours? We'll talk about how and why I did exactly that. If you like guides where we talk about how, when, and why to power up, you should definitely like and subscribe because that's something we're going to cover here. And we are a sponsored creator for Rise of Civilizations. Now, what you're watching here is some open field combat between our allies VYG and Marvel, now wearing the name Mammy, and I guess a little bit of HK7 also in this battle. VYG had a flag that was connecting to basically the middle of Marvel's flags above and below, and then also HK7's to the side. So it was a pretty strong place for them to be launching attacks because they could move into 3 different flags. That said, 2 alliances could come to defend that pretty easily. Now, this video, I want to talk about how I gained so much power. There's really not much secret to it. The holy trinity of powering up is the thing that you need to be thinking about. And the holy trinity is spending, speed ups, and sweet, sweet buffs. I don't know. I tried to think of a way to make those all start with S. Anyways, spent a bunch of money, bought a bunch of packs. That's part of it. Part of it's that I've been buying those packs over a long period of time, and I've been farming up tons of resources. I've farmed over 3.3 billion resources at this point in time. And so when I would buy these packs that had resources in them, I mostly didn't need to use them. The speed ups that I got over time I'd been accumulating. I think I had over 250 or 300 days of speed ups saved up. I think more than that even. And the bigger question is, why was I saving them? Why was I saving them? And if you haven't actually taken a serious look at what it takes to get T5, let me just walk through some of these required buildings in the order in which you have to build them, because this is what was driving why I was taking my sweet time. The key building for making progress toward T5 is the academy. You need to get your academy to 25. Why is that? At 25, you gain 7% research speed, which is massive. But in order to build the academy, you need to have the watchtower completed. There might be other buildings too. I'm remembering this from the top of my head, okay? You have to have the watchtower completed. Now, to complete the watchtower, you also need to have completed the storehouse and the wall. To complete the wall, you have to have finished the tavern. To finish the tavern, you have to have done the quarry. And I think you might also have to have done the trading post, but to have done the trading post, you had to do the gold mine. Not all of that is perfect, but that's about right. But then also to do the storehouse, you have to have done the hospital. To do the hospital, you have to have done the castle. To do the castle, you have to have done all 4 of the troop training buildings. See where this is going? So I was taking my time working on all of these buildings because the second you've sped up your Academy 25, and you do want to speed your way up through that because, look, when you are building your Academy, you're not researching. So speed ups do double duty on those military training buildings and on the Academy. You really want to speed up through those. That said, I was taking my time because I wanted to use all building specific speed ups if I could. If I could use all building specific speed ups, that would be optimal because I don't want to use the generic speed ups for building, because you know what building speed ups are going to be worth to me after I finish the academy? 0. There's almost nothing I can do with them. All I have left to build at this point is a couple hospitals, actually just 1 now, and gold mines. I just don't care. There's nothing I need to speed up from a building perspective. So I was slow rolling getting to Academy 25. Now, one thing I want to show you is that here in this clip, we are swarm attacking a flag. Our T5 player Venture got kind of tired of our getting pressed on this front, which was actually in zone 2, where Toon was sort of pushing on our flags and making us teleport over occasionally. It was a pain in the butt, costing us a bunch of resources. And at this point, he's like, okay, well, I'm going to swarm this flag, and I'm going to battle it until this is no longer a problem. We really should have rallied this flag, especially because they come and they support it. You can see me here trying to cut off the players that go to support it, but I'm not very successful in being able to do that. So going back, oh, by the way, one thing I'm going to do now is a tactic I mentioned in the last video where you scout the nearby cities, because if these players are getting sloppy and like, look at all those resources, baby. He's got no good garrison commanders, barely any troops. I think at this point I tell Venture like, hey, dude, just hit the city and instead claim all this loot. I feel bad for Lei, but like he's sitting on a ton of resources. Yeah, here it is. Hit this Venture. Right? Like claim the goodies. By hitting the city, you force the players out of the flag. Then you hit the flag and you really wreck the flag. Anyways, this is something I've noticed as a pattern is that people, when defending objectives, leave their cities empty, and you can actually like get free hits on their cities, which I think I try to go and do here, but something happened where I had insufficient units. Anyways, so I'm slow rolling using my building speed ups. I'm slow rolling because I don't want to use generic speed ups. But here's the thing. When you are at war, the rules of efficiency have changed. You don't need to optimize for perfect power gain over time. You need to optimize for maximum power now, right now. Because look, like people are getting in my city at this point. I've been rallied 4 times. People are getting in my city, troops are dying. If I can get extra buffs, if I can get extra stats, then yeah, I need to do that. And the obligation is on me to get as powered up as I possibly can, as fast as I possibly can. So that is something that I did, starting with buildings. Now, I mentioned that Sweet Buffs is the third member of this trinity. There's a couple buffs that you can use. One is a rune on the map. I used a 10% rune. And I wish it had been 15%, but we were at war. So I didn't need to wait for 15%. I needed to use the 10% and get as much power as I could right now. So that our, I mean, like, look, if this war had gone poorly, and the war at this point's not over, it was anybody's game. I mean, like, we could have been pushed out of zone 3. Our members could have quit, right? Like, power now is what we needed. So I used a 10% rune instead of a 15% rune, and then I popped a kingdom buff for building to get an additional 10%. Now, there's a couple other things that you can do to, like, really crank this out. I don't think I actually intended to go all the way to the Academy 25, but then I realized, like, oh man, I just need to do it. I could have also used a Civ Switch token to go to China to get 5% extra building speed. We also have in our alliance the absolute maximum building speed construction technology research. I also have my own research maxed out for that, which is very helpful. And there's also the alliance buff, the counselor. You can give yourself that for 1% building speed, which I know is not much, but I used a lot of speed ups. Used a lot of speed ups. So I sped up all those buildings that I mentioned. It was a solid 4 hours of speeding up buildings, and I knocked out the Academy to 25. And then I had resources for all of this. It was magical. All of my resource farming and buying paid off. Then I went in. 24 hours later, there was a 10% science buff. I popped a kingdom science buff. I used the 10% rune. And there's something that I could have done and should have done and forgot to do, which is to use the buffs for switching to Korea. And I've now swapped to Korea, but Korea gives a 3% research speed boost. So I used that 3% research speed boost later. I ultimately made that swap. But then I just sped up a bunch of research. Now, there's a really critical set of research that we need to talk about. And It is what I'm calling essentially tier 4.5, which is that when you finish off cartography rank 5 and you get 5% movement speed, that only took like 20 days to research before speed ups and before help. Sorry, before help is what I mean. Um, it's the three things leading up to it, and I'll look at the names in my game right now, even though you're looking at something else. It was combat tactics, defensive formation, and herbal medicine. Getting those to 10 is really expensive. I think like with all the buffs that I had, it was still like 70 days or so of speed ups each. And I can't remember if that's before help or after help. But once you bang that out, you can push up encampment, you can push up medical core a whole heck of a lot. And I think I gained, and it's a small number of speed ups and days of speed ups to gain a ton of power. I gained something like, I want to say 8%, no, 7% health to all my units. And I gained something like, I think I went all the way up to level 9 on encampment. So I gained something like 11% defense for all my units. Just cranking those two up after I got over that huge hump of knocking out the defensive formation, combat tactics, and herbal medicine, which in and of themselves, by the way, gave another solid 4% to each of the different stats. So this was a massive gain in power in a short period of time. And like, look, shooting for that hump, it seems like a really good idea to me. At this point, from a research perspective and getting toward T5, I've got a ton of work to do, and it's going to take a really long time, I think, because now I've got that same massive grind again. I've got to get encampment uh, up to 10, and that's going to be probably like 80 days of speed ups after getting helped. Same with medical core. I mean, it's just going to be nuts. So that is why I powered up. I powered up slightly inefficiently. I powered up a whole heck of a lot because in a war, you need the power now. And I did notice it was actually a whole heck of a lot easier to do battle with all the darn buffs after I've gotten them. By the way, in the clip that you're watching right now, you're going to see that we're spreading out as we're taking out some flags here so that folks can't teleport in and support. And it's specifically Punisher that we're worried about teleporting back over and his T5 just kind of ending all our progress here. In the meantime, we actually send Venture over to one of these flags that Punisher is burning to try to just put his troops in one of those flags and then extinguish it. Which is, I think, a thing that he will go and do. So we powered up somewhat inefficiently. We powered up with a whole heck of a lot of speed ups, and we did it during war when people don't normally power up because we needed the power right away. We needed the power right away. During the course of this war, I won't actually run out of speed ups, or not speed ups, resources. I get close. I get closer than I'd like to running out of resources, but I don't run out. And I really do think having the additional power made a pretty big difference. In fact, if nothing else, it certainly boosted my confidence that, like, hey, wait a minute, I should be leading rallies on stuff, which is the thing that in the future you're going to see me do. You're going to see me lead rallies on targets, and it's going to get pretty spicy. It's going to get pretty spicy. So, my friends, I hope that you enjoyed watching this video. I know there's a lot of stuff that we talked through, not exactly related to what you're seeing on the screen. But this stuff that you're seeing on the screen, there's not a lot of new tactics that we're really showing here. These are tactics that I think are pretty straightforward, right? Scout the cities next to where flags are being attacked, because often they're vulnerable. Spread your troops out across the land when you're burning flags so that they can't teleport their cities there. Um, and, look, we found that swarm attacks were incredibly inefficient because you have a lot of deaths, but we built unbelievable amounts of momentum off the back of swarm attacks on flags, if you can believe it. I think a rally attack in this case would have accomplished the same thing, quite frankly, but anyways, it worked out the way it worked out. We ended up accomplishing what we needed to accomplish. And, ultimately, I think we stopped pressing the flags here because we were like, you know what? Why don't we do the same thing in zone 3 where it'll have a more meaningful impact? We cut off their ability to burn our flags without having to build one of their own. And ultimately, by launching this attack in this direction, we broke down a front from which they were attacking us and made it undesirable to ever come back to that front. I think Venture also stayed around at some point or came back at some point and started to launch attacks on player cities from here and really caused a lot of havoc. So, my friends, if you found this video helpful or interesting, please do like and subscribe. Eager for your thoughts. And until next time, my friends, you have fun smashing the kingdom.